Former UK Ambassador Mandelson arrested after Epstein revelations. Developing Russia's nuke forces an absolute priority. Where do Ukraine and Russia stand after 4 years of war? Malaysia mulls law to curb premiership to 2 terms. South Korea, Brazil sign key minerals trade deals. London police have arrested former British ambassador to the United States Peter Mandelson on suspicion of misconduct in public office. The Metropolitan Police said a 72-year-old man was taken into custody on Monday as part of an investigation into a former government minister. He was later released on bail while inquiries continue. The arrest follows revelations about Mandelson's past ties to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Mandelson was removed from his diplomatic post in September after details of their relationship emerged. Police launched a criminal investigation earlier this month after the government passed on communications between Mandelson and Epstein. Earlier on Monday, Mandelson was seen leaving his central London home with plainclothes officers before being driven away. Authorities stressed that an arrest does not imply guilt and that the investigation remains ongoing. There was no immediate comment from Mandelson's legal representatives. Russian President Vladimir Putin has said the development of Russia's nuclear forces is now an "absolute priority," following the expiry of the last remaining nuclear arms treaty between Russia and the United States. In a video address on Sunday, Putin said strengthening the country's nuclear triad remains essential to Russia's security, strategic deterrence, and the global balance of power. The remarks were delivered on Defender of the Fatherland Day, a national holiday marked by military ceremonies and patriotic displays. Putin also pledged to continue strengthening Russia's army and navy, saying lessons learned from the nearly 4-year war in Ukraine would be used to improve combat readiness, mobility, and operational capability across all branches of the armed forces. His comments came just days before the 4th anniversary of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, a conflict that has devastated cities, displaced millions, and caused heavy casualties on both sides. Russia and the United States are no longer bound by any nuclear arms control agreement after the New START treaty expired earlier this month. However, Moscow said it would continue to act responsibly and respect previously agreed limits on its nuclear arsenal. Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine on February 24, 2022. Triggering the deadliest conflict in Europe since World War II. As the war reaches its 4th year, the impact on Ukraine has been severe, with widespread destruction across the country. Entire cities in eastern and southern Ukraine, including Bakhmut, Toretsk, and Vovchansk, have been largely reduced to rubble by sustained fighting. The World Health Organization says it has verified more than 2,800 attacks on healthcare facilities since the start of the invasion. Russian strikes on energy infrastructure have also left millions without heating and electricity. According to the UN Mine Action Service, around 20% of Ukrainian territory is contaminated by landmines or unexploded ordnance. The cost of rebuilding the country is expected to be enormous. The World Bank estimates Ukraine's reconstruction will require about $588 billion over the next 10 years. Malaysia has introduced new legislation to limit the Prime Minister's tenure to a maximum of 2 terms, in a move aimed at strengthening accountability and reducing the concentration of executive power. The Southeast Asian nation currently has no term limits for its Prime Minister. Former leader Mahathir Mohamad served a total of 24 years in office, from 1981 to 2003, and again between 2018 and 2020. The proposed reform follows an announcement in January by current Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, who said his government would pursue a 2-term limit amid public calls to address corruption and improve governance. Anwar's ruling coalition, Pakatan Harapan, had already pledged to introduce term limits in its 2022 election manifesto. However, local media reports say the government has faced criticism over the slow pace of political reforms. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung held summit talks in Seoul with Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, with both leaders agreeing to expand cooperation across key sectors. The discussions focused on strengthening ties in trade, critical minerals, technology, and cultural exchanges. Lee said the two countries plan to upgrade their relationship to a strategic partnership and work together to support stability on the Korean peninsula. Speaking at a joint press conference, Lee said peace based on preventing conflict is the strongest form of security. The two leaders also oversaw the signing of 10 memorandums of understanding covering areas such as trade and industrial policy, strategic minerals, the digital economy including artificial intelligence, agriculture, health and biotechnology, small business cooperation, and joint efforts to combat cybercrime, drug trafficking and other transnational threats. Lee said both sides adopted a 4-year action plan, outlining steps to deepen cooperation in areas including defense, space industries, and food security. Brazil is South Korea's largest trading partner in South America. President Lula said Brazil has the world's second-largest rare earth reserves and significant nickel resources, adding that his government hopes to attract increased investment from South Korean companies.